actually is my student also in Triple IU, right? So, Assalamualaikum. Good afternoon. I think good afternoon, everyone, right? So, it's pleasure to be here, right? So, uh, be sharing about the thing that requested by the committee, right? So, actually, the previous one I already giving the title, and then because of time, not much preparation that what we call as I have to do. So I what we call as offer about sharing about the educational assessment. So it could be this one is what we call as giving you a new perspective, right? So it is also part of what we call it how we handle in terms of education in general, and then how we see about the process of learning, right? So would like to share screen from here. All right. So anybody can see this one? Is it okay?
Yes, at the
Okay.
moment you can see.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So I would like to what we call a share about this a bit different from the total could be the other speakers already mentioned previously or maybe later Dr. Doni. So Dr. Doni, thank you very much also for attending this invitation. So really glad and we appreciate that you want to share with all of us here, right? So the thing that I would like to share is about the context of measurement of learning progress. In this occasion, I would like to share about the importance of applying objective measurement, right? Okay, so already mentioned by Hasnan Yassin. So I'm actually educated as a chemistry teacher long time ago, and then I teach in Lombok for more than 7 years. Then during my time in Lombok, I got opportunity to study overseas in Australia 2 years, and then in New Zealand for 3 years. And I'm trying to become lecturers in Indonesia, but actually not succeed. And then I have to become lecturers in Malaysia, menjadi TKI, right? So I have 5 years in UTM, University Technology Malaysia in Johor, and then another more than 5 years in University Malaya. That is the time that I also meet with Dr. Doni there, right? And then starting from 2022. So I'm back to Indonesia, right? So if some of you know about the hashtag like kabur aja dulu, so I already done that actually, right? So more than 10 years I will live in Malaysia, working there as TKI, and then return it in Indonesia in 2022. Up to now, I'm teaching at Universitas Islam Internasional Indonesia in Depok. All right, so the different thing when you are working in Malaysia, they are very strict in terms of achievement. If you are not publish any academic work, so they will not consider you as a good employee, right? So this also make what you call make us busy how to get published in the top journal, and then one of the side effect is you will be recognized as uh, what you call researchers at the world level, and then they will recruit you as a reviewer as well as become editorial board member, right? So this is the three top journal that I become editorial board member. School leadership and management, also with Dr. Doni, starting from 2017 up to now. It is about journal in educational management and educational administration, right? So, and then educational assessment, evaluation, accountability. This is a top journal in evaluation. Actually, only three people from Asia represent here. Okay, from Indonesia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. And then the last one is leadership and policy in school is also about educational management journal, right? So that's a bit about me. And then if you like to discuss or ask, so feel free to email me, right? I'm very happy to what you call answer any of your question, okay, regarding about research or publication or methodology. I would like also to inform this is my latest publication, which is will be officially published in June 2025. It is talking about what happened in Indonesia and Malaysia in the context of when COVID come, there is some cases that some school can be survive and then still provide a good quality service to student, right? So this is around what you call is 19 chapters, okay? And then with me is Dr. Zamzami is leading the as an editor and also Dr. Corinne Pinera, right? Okay, so the fine point that I would like to share with you today is about the idea of measurement, right? So from long time, we understand that when we do the test and then the student got correct answer, and then automatically we understand that the correct answer number is represent a measurement, right? So in order to understand this, so I give you example like this. We have four students, and then those four students, all of them are trying to answer 20 items, okay? And then from that 20 items, the number of correct item for this for each for student is different. So for example, Ali and Benny, Ali got 18 correct answer, Benny got 16, Celine got 11, and then Daddy got 9, right? So very easy for us to see that the distance between Ali and Benny is similar like the distance between Celine and Daddy because the difference of correct answer is the same, only two items. Okay, from one point of view, this is a very simple that no need to uh, think differently. That straightforward, we have two different score. But from other perspective, it is not about that. The difference between Ali and Benny, it's showing about good achievement, but the difference between Celine and Daddy, right? So it is not really so as good as Ali and Benny. Because if you have 20 items, so most likely if you correct 18 items, so you can answer easy, medium, even difficult item, right? But if you see Celine, for example, only correct 11 out of 20, so Celine most likely only can answer easy and medium difficulty level of items. Okay, so this is bring to us about that we need to see the score in the perspective of accuracy and preciseness. We cannot just relying on score and then we think that score represent measurement, right? Right. So this is another example. Okay. If we only rely on correct answer score, so somehow for the first situation, we don't have any problem reporting that student A got 75% achievement, but we cannot answer we cannot answer about measurement error. Why error is important? Because we are measuring something hidden, which is the ability of student to answer the English test. Okay, if we cannot provide error or measurement error, so people will think that our test is not provide accuracy and preciseness. Okay, so the second situation when B and C got the correct answer, we have difficulty to decide which one is better than the other. Okay, and then the last situation when student uh, not get any correct answer. So is it meaning that D is a student who don't know English at all? or even illiterate, cannot read. So this kind of situation, three situations, showing to us that understanding achievement based on score is not really a good way in terms of how we interpret the result, as well as how we can help the student in terms of getting better achievement, right? So this is related to the understanding of what we mean, what is the meaning about numbers in the context of assessment. Okay, so the first one is that when we dealing with numbers, so it is part of what we call quantitative measurement or quantitative research, right? And then the behind numbers, we have to understand that that numbers actually is come from when we use the instrument. That instrument usually relate to the certain like cognitive tests, like test paper, or maybe non-cognitive tests like questionnaire, when we asking like opinion, perception, and attitude, right? So those instruments actually we are trying to measure variable. Okay. So it is not only about reporting score, but the teacher need to understand that actually the score is a reflection of value in any variable that we want to measure, right? So most of researchers that have found out that many only concerns about the score, but not really understand that actually they are trying to measure the variable. Right. So when we dealing with variable, we are in the context of measurement of human being, and we don't have any problem, okay, when we deal with what we call physical dimension measurement. So if you want to trying to measure about the tall, how tall is this kid, for example, so you are using like ruler, for example, and then exactly you got the result, and then that result usually showing about precision, accuracy, and in the context of physical measurement, you also got what we call as universality. What you measure in Bandung is similar what you measure in Jakarta or even in Melbourne or even in Kuala Lumpur, right? But the difficulty we face is when we deal with what we call non-physical measurement or latent measurement. And our modern world is actually relying so much in non-physical measurement. How we come to decision about pass or fail of student, it is measuring something hidden. How we promote somebody to become a professor, actually because we measuring something latent, right? So modern world relies so much on latent and hidden ability in the context of cognitive. So it's like ability to solve problem, ability to speaking in foreign language, ability to in terms of intelligence. So everything usually we call it as non-physical or latent measurement. At the same time, we also interested in terms of measuring something like patriotism, self-efficacy. Okay, so we consider that as a non-cognitive because it is relying on measurement of attitude, opinion, and perception. Right. So this is an example how we do the analysis of measuring for physical dimension properties. It's very easy for us to conclude that flower A is double the size of flower C because we see, for example, the same unit, centimeter, as well as we have what we call as scale on the left-hand side. Okay. Scale showing about equal interval that measures about the how tall is the flower, something like this. Okay. So in the course of physical measurement, so it's straightforward and easy to understand, and then provide accuracy and preciseness, okay, in terms of measurement, even universal, okay. But different thing when you are dealing with non-physical measurement, latent, hidden, okay. So if we look these three example, physical dimension measurement like measuring length, time, and weight, okay. So this is a typical, a very good of quality measurement that provided by this by science. Okay, but when we try to understand the characteristic of measurement, so many people are fail to identify. Okay, so I like to remind you that physical measurement have their own characteristic that is unique and showing a very good quality, and it is closely related if also we want to measure human being. So the first one, any physical measurement is always has a clear starting point, zero, 0 centimeter, 0 second, 0 kilogram. All right. The second one is they have equal distance, equal interval. We call it scale. Okay. So the distance between 1 to 2 centimeter is similar like 3 to 4 centimeter or 10 to 11 centimeter. We don't have any problem understanding that. How come we can conclude about, for example, the result of score in any test, similar situation like this? Okay, so the distance between Ali and Benny is not similar like the distance between Celine and Daddy, because we not only see the score, we also need to see the difficulty level of the item. Without understanding difficulty level of item, so most likely we can report the wrong thing. So sorry about that, broken English, right? Okay. From here, we understand that understanding the characteristic of physical measurement is important. Why? Because it is showing a very good quality of physical dimension that should be, right, also apply in hidden or latent measurement, the way like we measure human being in the context of intelligence, for example, uh, speaking in other languages, okay, or in terms of, for example, customer satisfaction, is it is need a very precise and accuracy measurement, right? So this is one example that I can illustrate to you. Okay, so this is a typical slide that offered by what we call as motivator in Indonesia. Motivator usually always provide good news, but actually some of them are not really good news. Okay, some of them could be manipulation. So, for example, like this. One motivator can saying something that not important to have skills, knowledge, and hard work. What is important for you is to increase your attitude, right? The main reason is because that attitude total score is zero, right? So this is really misleading. Or in Indonesia, we call it cocokologi, right? Why? Because there is no such thing that 100 is the perfect score, right? So I think when you hear about corruption in Pertamina, 193 trillion, so it is better than 100. Okay, okay, showing something like there is no connection between letters and numbers, right? So I think you can imagine in the previous governor or, for example, a major or even presidential election, some of the black campaign using this method try to showing about the quality of the opponent. So, for example, I'm trying to become major in Bandung, for example, and one people trying to calculate B2, A1, M13, something like that. And then what really happened? The result they connect to the verses in Quran. So they found out in Bang Bang it is connected to the verses Al Ahzab. So it is concluded that if you vote for Bang Bang, so this region can have a very bad situation, kena azab. Okay, so there is no such thing connection between numbers and letters, right? So when we deal with human being measurement, so we have to be aware that what we call about numbers is not a single entity, right? So there is a number, but actually the number itself doesn't carry any value like what we have like nominal data. So in nominal data, for example, we have a postcode, okay, code the post. So the number is in postcode doesn't meaning anything, only just informing about the region or about the about the certain area. Okay, like street number, okay, Jalan Kartini nomor 20. So 20 at that number is not reflecting any information, right? So what we have to understand, the best thing we can get if we are dealing with numbers from human being, the type of data is ordinal. When the type of data is ordinal, it is only what we call defining what to count. It is only for frequency. Or Indonesia term, hanya untuk mencacah, bukan mengukur. So understanding this is really a very big impact to the quality of your research. For example, like Likert rating scale. What really happened? Many textbooks in Indonesia stated that Likert rating scale can be interpreted as interval. So can you imagine that? A very strong statement in the research method book stating that the similarity between ordinal and interval scale, but not really the case in the context of academic truth, for example. Case that can have a big problem later when we publish something in the international journal, it's become laughing stock for our international audience. If we just try to find means and standard deviation, for example. Okay, so this is an example. When we deal with ordinal type scale, there's so many problematic we can have. Okay, uh, the first one, I think on the left, you can see uh, very strong statement how they tend to abuse. What is the meaning abuse of data here? Finding mean and standard deviation is inappropriate for ordinal data. So if you have Likert rating scale, you cannot use to find mean and standard deviation. Okay, on the right hand side, you can see the title is also informing about very strong ordinal scale is foundation of misinference. Okay, skala ordinal dasar dari kekeliruan ilmiah. So this is a very strong statement showing that please be careful identifying about type of data. So this is one of the thing that we need to understand. For example, especially during Ramadan, there is a many type of scenes. Okay, one in the context here is about statistical analysis that also can give you something like we call it deadly sins. Okay, so in the hereafter later, okay, di akhirat nanti mungkin ada yang namanya neraka statistik karena kita mengerjakan suatu hal yang salah dalam konteks identifikasi jenis data. Okay, so please be careful when you identifying type of data. Wrong in that context, it can lead you to the serious in the context of deadly sins. Okay, one of the first deadly sin is using parametric analysis for ordinal data. So, for example, you are using correlation test, okay, person correlation, ANOVA, ANCOVA, t-test, okay, regression. So, there's type of what we call parametric analysis. If we are using that test with ordinal type data, so we are commit deadly sin actually, right? So please be careful. Okay, why the idea of measurement is important? Because it already criticized since long time ago. So this is what I can share. For example, written by Joel Michel from Australia. Okay, so he wrote a paper here that makes so many psychologists are angry because some of their research categorized are not scientific based on the what we call definition provided by Michel. Funny story that Michel can told to us that Joel Michel is a professor in University of Sydney, so he got a sabbatical, and in his sabbatical he traveled to Europe, and then he collect 44 psychology textbook in Europe. Okay, so he start from UK, okay, Scotlandia, Irlandia, and then move to France, okay, Prancis, Portugal, Spain, Italy, okay, German, Swiss, up to the Scandinavian countries. So he got 44 psychology textbook. So he read it one by one, and he found out 39 out of 44 psychology textbook mentioning about measurement in Europe is wrong. Can you imagine that? Psychology textbook in Europe consider is not correct, right? So we are very blessed. Even Joel Michel is close to us, to Indonesia, but he traveled to Europe. So it can be concluded that many textbook Indonesia still correct because nobody found it incorrect. So only in Europe. Okay, it is showing the seriousness of this problem that we are not taking carefully what is the meaning of measurement, especially in the context of latent or hidden measurement. Okay, so how to differentiate? So Michelle told us that if we only have score, it is not a measurement. It's only a frequency of correct answer, right? So that is the strong message that Michel shared to us when he told us about measurement. So what we mean about measurement, it has to be fulfill characteristic of physical dimension measurement. So when we look about physical instrument, they have four characteristics. The first one has a clear starting point. The second one is have a scale. The third one is has a unit, and the fourth one is linear. If the way you measure human being not fulfill about what we call as good characteristic of physical dimension measurement, so the data you have only as a score, not a real measurement. When you have a score, so you have to use certain statistical tools. You cannot use any statistical tool because some statistical tool, for example, like regression, correlation, ANOVA, they require the data that can be analyzed should be interval or ratio data, right? So this is come to our understanding that the way we understand statistics should be come from different perspective. Okay, so Ras told us that statistics is good, but not complete. Right? Can you imagine that statement showing something that we learn statistik from primary school, kita belajar statistik dari SD, SMP, SMA, S1, S2, S3, but Ras told us that ilmu statistik yang kita pelajari bagus, tetapi tidak lengkap. Okay, that's a strong statement showing something that what we understand about statistics most likely regard to what we call as group center. We don't have statistical tool that provide us what we call as individual center statistic. Why individual in center statistic important? Because we are measuring human being. Because we need to come up with precise and accuracy, okay, in measurement. Those things only can get when you are doing physical dimension measurement. It is not happening when you are dealing with uh, uh, typical human being measurement, right? So if you are trying to criticize what is the importance of individual center statistic, you can learn from this article showing something that even it is still new in the last 60 years, so the approach of individual center statistic is widespread and then become what we call a very convenient tools in any discipline. Okay, so if you are learning about what we call language assessment, okay, like when you are using TOEFL test or IELTS test, so it is what we call uh, uh, the context of language testing and language assessment. I think the topic that also Hasnan Yassin using in his dissertation, right? So when you are dealing with language testing and language assessment, if you are not using individual center statistic, in this case is RAS model, then people will consider that the quality of your thesis or dissertation is not showing a top quality that available in this world right now. Okay, if you go to the what we call social medicine, not clinical medicine, so RAS also become a standard. As well as if you are dealing with international cognitive uh, assessment like PISA teams, so you cannot run away from RAS in order to analyze the data. Okay, so this is a typical RAS textbook that you can find in the market. Okay, so the number of citation showing something that academic community already accepted this approach and then use it in their research. Okay, so this is in English. If you want to use it in Bahasa Indonesia, me and Pak Wahyu written to textbook about RAS model, okay, and then is already cited more than 900 times, okay, so you can check in Google Scholar. If you want to have it, you can call Pak Dadan in that number, okay. Okay, so what is need in terms of individual center statistic, okay, because at the end when you have numbers you have tools how to interpret that correctly. You have need a tool to produce precise and accuracy. Okay, so this is a typical of measurement theories that available if you are doing literature review search. Okay, so most of us really accustomed with test score tradition. So we consider as score as measurement. That is, we call it as classical test theory, right? So what we offer is we call it as scaling tradition and then using RAS measurement theory.
Recording
right?
stopped.
Right. So other type of analysis we usually call as structural tradition, usually when we are dealing with data analysis in terms of identifying factors, for example, like factor analysis, but also can upgrade it into the multivariable analysis, like using structural equational modeling, right? At the end, what is the difference when we use individual center statistic with group center statistic? What GeoTrust is offer that the way we see data, okay, it can be resulted into different if we look it from probabilistic point of view. Okay, if you are using group center statistics, so most likely what you trying to solve is based on what we call as score frequency. Okay, but when you are dealing with individual center statistic, you have to
Recording
use
in progress.
probabil you have to use probabilistic perspective to analyze the data. Okay, so right. I think that's all for me. So hopefully this is really can provide you a new perspective, not only in terms of doing data analysis, but deep down more in terms of understanding how we see it, the same data from different perspective. Okay. With that, thank you very much for your attention. Back to Yasin as a moderator. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation, Dr. Bambang. So I think um, to make this presentation and discussion more comprehensive, if any of the participants has any questions, I think it's time for us to open the Q&A sessions. So if you'd like to ask further about the concept that has been presented by Dr. Bambang, or if you'd like to give some comment. Okay, we have one participant raising hand. Uh, Miss Novalia, you can turn on your microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan, and thank you, Mr. Bambang, with this give me a chance. It's about the how to measure learning progress and object measures approach. One question for you: how about the children with the special need, with the relation with the measure learning progress? Because in the school, in my school, there is a children with special need. How we can to measure is about the capability, or the same you explaining about how you give mark, how the method is many method. What is the good solution for me, especially because I'm headmaster in my school, to appreciate about how to measure learning progress. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, would you like to address the question directly? Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bu Nova, for the question. Right, so uh, what is the situation in Indonesian education right now is when we're dealing with special need, we are not relying on objective measurement, right? There is no such thing as instrument that measure about learning progress for special needs student. Okay, so it's showing something that this is something new in Indonesia, and nobody are taking care in terms of learning progress for uh, what you call as special needs student, right? So if you move to Australia, for example, and study about learning progress for special need, okay, some of the researcher there already created tools, okay, in terms of what we call measuring learning progress for special needs student, right? But of course, special need is so many type, okay? One of the researcher from University of Melbourne, so you can search Dr. White, okay, a female, okay? Uh, he been invited by Triple IU, by Universitas Islam Internasional Indonesia. You can see in our website. So I type our website here. Okay, just a minute. Right. So put a website there. So you can check in the web page event. Okay. In that event, okay, and then you can find Dr. White already shared to us
Sorry, Dr.
uh, uh, her research in terms of developing the instrument that measuring learning progress in for special needs students. The seminar conducted on November. Okay, so at that time, Dr. Tati is speaker from Triple IU, and Dr. White is speaker from UNIC Melbourne. Okay, so you can search. Okay, I forgot about the full name. Okay, so she also utilize RAS in this context is partial credit model in order to build a new instrument about learning progress for special need, and he come out even with the very comprehensive measurement up until what we call it level descriptor. So level descriptor meaning that we can identify the progress being made by the special needs student, and we can identify what type of question that, what type of item that a special needs student can success or can fail. All right. So I think better you try to find it. It is very common in other countries that use RAS model, what you call as to create about the measurement of special purpose, like special needs student, right? So I think that's the information that I can share with you. Thank you, Bonova.
Thank you, Mr. Bambang. Is more give me a solution for the special need. I hope so. I can to implementation it can to I can to implementation this method in our school. Thank you for your suggestion.
Sure, sure, no problem. If you really need help about RAS, you can ask Hasnan Yasin. He also expert on that. No problem.
Thank you. I'm sorry to disturb Dr. Bambang. I think we have a little bit of a technical issue that the host is now given to you. So if you don't mind giving it back to team operator. Yeah. And then I think we have the second question from Miss Okay.
Ya,
Yeah, please. Time's
terima
yours.
kasih. Terima kasih, Prof. Bambang. Izin saya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. Yang pertama, menarik sekali untuk kelas model ini, Prof. Kalau produk penelitian kita biasanya menggunakan produknya model itu menggunakan tahapan R&D sesuai Book and Goal yang 10 tahap itu, Prof. Tapi kan waktunya lama ya, mulai dari bagaimana membuat draft model sampai uji kelayakan model tersebut di lapangan. Itu membutuhkan waktu sekitar 1,5 tahun. Sementara mahasiswa kita kan dituntut untuk menyelesaikan penelitiannya tuh hanya beberapa bulan saja. Nah, yang berikutnya untuk kelas model ini, apakah bisa digunakan ya untuk menghasilkan produk model penelitian di bidang pendidikan tersebut. Yang berikutnya, apakah RAS model ini juga bisa digunakan untuk mengukur tingkat pemberdayaan? Karena yang sekarang ini pemberdayaan masyarakat juga harus terkuantifikasi tingkat keberdayaannya. Apakah bisa digunakan menggunakan RAS model ini untuk mengukur bagaimana keberdayaan baik itu ekonomi, sosial, maupun lingkungannya. Terima kasih, Prof.
Okay, terima kasih Bu Oke. Right. Okay, the first thing is that regarding research method, right? So RAS model is only a tool in the context of testing the instrument and transforming data. Okay. All right. So when you have problem in terms of how to make sure that your instrument is valid or reliable, so you can use RAS model. That's the first thing. Okay. But at the same time, because the ability to transforming the data, then RAS model also very useful in terms of reporting about person ability, okay, item difficulty, and so many things, right? So with regard to the R&D, right? So I think in some occasion I already criticized about R&D, okay, because in Indonesia R&D considered is one of the top methodology to be used because you can produce something. Okay, so from some of the what we call reading that I found in especially master and PhD student in Indonesia when they are using R&D, okay, so they are spend much time and energy in terms of development and very little time and energy in terms of research. So what you mentioned, Bu Oke mentioned regarding about the difficult dealing with R&D is because you have to create it from scratch something new, okay, and consider that this is a contribution to the knowledge. And what really happened in terms of international literature, right? So seldom we are reporting something only because we creating something new. What can be accepted when we testing that with, for example, adequate number of respondents. So you can imagine you create a module, you create an apps, you can create any kind of software, okay, new teaching method, all right? So you devote your time to create something new, but later when you test it, okay, what really happen is very minimal. For example, I come across some proposal or some thesis using R&D when they are testing the product less than 1 month, even some of them 2 weeks. Go anywhere in any standard research method. If we want to make sure that the intervention are really work, you have to wait 3 months. Okay, and then the intervention at least 8 times, 10 times. Okay, in terms of the how can you come with a good finding when you are tested into school, for example, involving 4 classes and do it in 2 weeks? Nobody will trust about the result at the international level if we only doing something like that. Okay, so what trust can offer is because uh, creating a new instrument is complex. So just as Hasnan for that, okay, it's not easy, right? So many suggestions that I usually give to students, just adopt about available instrument, translate it, okay? Put in the context of Indonesian school, for example, and using Bahasa Indonesia, and then you test it using RAS model. The result of that can have much faster and then resulted in the good quality measurement based on the instrument that you use. Once you are satisfied with that process, then you can distribute to bigger number, and based on that bigger number, then you can write a paper that can be accepted by international audience, right? So if you check about my publication, for example, more and more paper that I publish relying on RAS analysis, and then it is not so difficult. Okay, so I published up to now 48 papers in Scopus, for example. None of them I paid any money. Okay, zero. Tidak pernah bayar, gratis. Okay, so if somebody tell you that publish in Scopus need a lot of money, so is not correct. Okay, I've never pay any cent in terms of international publication. What we can offer is a good quality result, and then we target with, for example, what you call as the copyrights belong to the publisher. Doesn't matter about that one. Okay, the important thing is that our research is being accepted by the top international journal, for example, right? So regard to the method, so what I can suggest is there is nothing wrong if we are using only quantitative or only qualitative or even mixed method, because when we dealing with R&D, there's so many complication, and then if you are do some uh, little search, for example, go to top journal in education. The name of the journal is Review of Educational Research. Try to find, is there any paper in Review of Educational Research using R&D as method? Okay, show me if you find one. Okay, so it is showing at the international level, it is not about creating a product. Even if we creating a product, after we finish study, after we complete the research, nobody are using our product. So what is the point if we are creating a product, nobody are using it? Okay. So if we are having product, for example, creating a new testing system, we are have a new instrument, and somebody are interested to using it, so meaning that we have an impact in terms of research product. Okay, so that's the one. The next one is in using RAS model in terms of mengukur pemberdayaan masyarakat, right? So in that context, RAS model only dealing with human being. Okay, we are interested in terms of measuring latent trait, something hidden, something unobservable in human being, not as a group of human, not result, for example, measurement based on, for example, group performance. So in that thing, I don't think RAS is applicable to that context. Okay, so RAS is more likely about dealing with human being. Okay, dealing with how we can decide about the ability in terms of cognitive or non-cognitive. Okay, I think that's what can answer. So hopefully can answer your question, Bu Oke. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Is there any other questions from other participants? I think we have one on the chat box. It's Nopi again. I think Miss Nopi asked specifically about the websites that you can refer to, Bamba. The oh, okay. Oh, and we have another question from Mr. Ardi. Please, you can turn on your microphone and then ask your questions.
Baik. Bapak izin kalau bahasa Indonesia boleh dilanjut? Ya, baik Pak. Terima kasih Pak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Menyambung Pak dari pertanyaan Bu Oke, kebetulan Bu Oke menjadi salah satu pembimbing saya di mini riset semester kemarin Pak. Saya sangat-sangat apa namanya sangat tertarik Pak. Jadi ibaratnya di apa penelitian dengan R&D gitu Pak. Karena di situ ada produk yang dihasilkan gitu. Jadi bukan hanya sekadar apa namanya teoritis ataupun secara apa ya ada bukti nyatanya gitu. Nah kebetulan kemungkinan untuk kedepannya juga saya akan mengambil R&D tersebut kaitannya dengan yang ditanyakan Bu Oke tadi Pak. Jadi betul apa yang ditanyakan Bu Oke, apakah dengan waktu yang singkat itu bisa ya Pak ya? Kemudian sangat menarik Bapak tadi menjelaskan ketika publication di Scopus Pak ya, zero zero bayar gitu Pak. Itu sangat menarik Pak. Mohon tipnya Pak mungkin Pak buat nanti kami gitu. Seumpamanya kami juga nanti ada kewajiban untuk menerbitkan suatu apa namanya artikel yang reputasi jurnalnya internasional mungkin Pak nanti ke depannya. Terima kasih Pak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke, Waalaikumsalam. Right. So, Pak Adi, oke, yang pertama, so the first thing is that research, of course, we see that a good quality research product is when your product is we call has a novelty, contribute something new to the body of knowledge, right? So how do we know it is contribute something new to the body of knowledge? So it's very easy. You publish something and then waiting the response. If the editor and two reviewers or three reviewers agree that this is has a quality and fill in something new, then your research actually is success in that context, right? So uh, published in international just is a bit different with completing dissertation, right? So completing dissertation meaning that you have to responsibility in terms of following guidance and guideline that provided by the faculty of by the study program, okay? Fulfilling all the requirement, okay, like coursework and also research process, and then you can pass from what we call as thesis defense or dissertation defense, right? We usually call it FIFA 4C, right? Okay, so the content of your research, so it is actually is up to you, okay? Which typical method that you want to use, either quantitative, qualitative, mixed method, or R&D is up to you. But when you dealing with international audience, they are very strict in terms of quality. They are very strict in terms of checking methodology. Why? Because your research can become what we a reference for others. And we don't want to make sure that reference from others it come from not a good quality research, falsified research, or even wrong findings. Okay, so it's the real test. Okay, so think clearly about the method. Okay, what is your passion in terms of doing research? Which particular approach that you think is feasible to come out with your research topic? Okay, so maybe some of it, for example, dealing with non-cognitive measurement. Okay, so if dealing with non-cognitive measurement, think about what is the correct tool to measure non-cognitive aspect. Especially, you want to come out with precise and accuracy. Then, if the reason is precise and accuracy, then you have to think what measurement model that offer to that challenges that offer to that needed, right? So BRAS is one of the answer, right? So it's always up to you, okay? So discuss with your supervisor, with your professor, okay? So it will guide you, okay? And then of course, right now, is much more easier for you also to get connect with expert outside your program study, outside your faculty, outside your university, okay, even outside Indonesia, right? So right now, if you want to find expert, you can using like Google, right? So type your what we call topics, okay, and then like Chat GPT, right? So you can ask Chat GPT who is the top expert in education leadership. So Chat GPT will tell the name, and then you can find the website, and then you can connect directly using email, for example. Okay, so that is the good how we prepare our own research, right? So regarding publication, actually, I go to many places in Indonesia telling that publish in Scopus is not required payment anything. And then people get shocked, and people, some of them get angry to me, right? So they think that I am speaking nonsense, okay? But actually, if you need to pay, you are targeting to what we usually call as open access journal. Open access journal, yes, because in open access journal, most likely the copyright of your paper still belong to you. Anda masih mempunyai hak ciptanya, sehingga yang Anda bayar itu adalah kepemilikan hak ciptanya. Oke, okay? Dan what really happen in Indonesia, people telling to others that if you want to get cited, if you want to get no, please publish this open access. There is no such thing that if you publish in open access, people will cite you. There is no guarantee. What the thing that make your publication cited is the quality of your paper. And if you want to make it high probability to be cited, you have to target the top journal. Because top journal is usually, okay, read it by many researchers and academicians in your area and is become a good reference. Okay? Sama seperti saya mengaku saya anak orang kaya, padahal yang kaya bapak saya. Tapi karena bapak saya kaya, maka saya jadi ke bawah kaya, padahal saya tidak pernah memiliki kekayaan itu. Okay, is understand? Right. So think about target in the top journal. When you submit, don't choose, for example, gold open access or any kind of thing because that has implication that you need to pay for copyright. So my experience dealing with that, okay, I think Dr. Doni also the same. Okay, we publish so many papers in Scopus, okay, that can share, right? So you can target only for those that no need to pay anything, right? So the thing that you need to learn is how to handle criticism, how to keep motivated when the result could be reject. Okay, rejected is normal, right? Even the top professor, okay, Dr. Doni also know. Previously, when I was working in University Malaya, my boss is a top educational leadership professor in the world, Professor Almaharis. Okay, and we share about our experience published in the top journal. Even Professor Almaharis also experienced the same thing. Send one paper to American Educational Leadership Journal and suddenly got rejected. It doesn't meaning that you are born in UK, can speak English as a native speaker, you can write good paper as a professor, it can be accepted. It is normal to get rejected. Okay, so you have to keep moving, do some revision, and then resubmit again to other journal. You even need 5 times, 6 times, 10 times, doesn't matter. Keep going, right? So that is the key, right? Thank you very much. Back to Hasnan.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope all those questions are answered. Yeah, I'm sorry, but we don't have enough time to cover more questions. I'm pretty sure there are many other audiences are willing to give some questions, ask some questions related to Dr. Bambang's presentations. But I think you can always contact him through his email if you have any questions and concerns and comments regarding the topics. So thank you very much. I think I would like to summarize a little bit. I will try to summarize what Dr. Bambang has presented in a very brief manner in 2 languages. because I'm pretty sure that maybe some of us need more clear explanation. So Dr. Bambang's presentation on how to measure learning progress, an objective measurement approach, explores the concept of assessment and its roles in education. He discussed the differences between scores and measurement, emphasizing that scores alone do not provide a less accurate measurement of students' ability. He also highlighted the importance of measurement characteristics in both physical and human sciences, distinguishing between cognitive and non-cognitive assessment. And he also introduces the Rush model as the standard measurement approach, also mentioning a little bit of its mathematical foundations and application in educational assessment. He also presented a little bit of critiques of traditional theory, as what the Rush himself also conveyed for being a group-centered and advocates for individual centered statistic methods. Dalam bahasa Indonesia, tadi Dr. Bambang telah menyampaikan presentasi tentang how to measure learning progress, mengukur progres belajar ya secara objektif. Beliau juga membahas konsep penilaian dan peran dalam peran konsepnya kan. Beliau juga menjelaskan perbedaan antara skor dan pengukuran dengan menekankan bahwa skor saja belum cukup untuk memberikan hasil yang akurat tentang kemampuan siswa. Dr. Bambang juga menyebutkan pentingnya karakteristik yang ada pada pengukuran fisik seperti yang kita tahu, dan ini juga harus berlaku dalam pengukuran non fisik seperti pengukuran latent trace atau hal yang tidak bisa dilihat dengan kasat mata. Dan di akhir beliau juga memperkenalkan Rush model sebagai salah satu pendekatan pengukuran yang standar dipakai di dunia internasional, dan menjelaskan sedikit tentang dasar matematisnya dan penerapannya dalam pendidikan. So with that, I think that would be the end of the discussion with Dr. Bambang. And I think, yeah, the next one is, yeah, we're going to proceed to Dr. Doni, but we're going to have a photo sessions before we move on to our fourth speaker. So for the participants, if your camera is available, please turn it on if you don't mind. Oke, nanti akan dipoto oleh operatornya. I'm going to count to 3, so please put on a smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one last time probably, because we have more than 300 participants. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, I hope that's enough. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Bambang, for your wonderful presentations. And now I think it's time to proceed to the next speakers. Let's welcome Dr. Doni. Okay, just a second. is Dr. All right, Dr. Donny Adams. Okay, he's here. Okay, welcome to the this conference, Dr. Donny. It's very nice to see you again. Yeah, I've seen you in some of the conferences previously at Triple IU. So it's also great to see you again here. Okay, before Dr. Donny present his presentations, I would like to briefly introduce him because yeah, I'll just do it quickly because he has a very extended experience and qualifications. Yeah, Dr. Donny Adams is a lecturer in educational leadership at the Faculty of Education, University of Melbourne. Previously, he served as the director for the Center for Research in International and Cooperative Educations at the University of Malaya, Malaysia. He was recently awarded the Emerald Young Researcher Award 2021 by Emerald Publishing. He is currently the co-editor-in-chief for educational research and evaluations and the editor for Common Education under Taylor and Francis. He is actively involved in research and development work towards the area of inclusive school leadership and school-wide reformation of inclusive education agenda in Malaysia. Okay, well, without further ado, I think we're going to give it to Dr. Donny. Uh, you will have 60 minutes of presentation and then the rest 15 minutes for question and answer. Dr. Donny, screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the organizers, Universitas Islam Nusantara, especially Mr. Fadli Ikram and Hassan. You've been doing a fabulous job in terms of emceeing and moderating this whole event. And I also had the pleasure of listening to Dr. Bambang talking about educational measurement in educational research. And we work very closely at University of Malaya before, and Dr. Bambang left to Malaysia, and I miss him so much, and I decided to pack my bags and go to Australia. So that's the story. So we are very close friends, and we do a lot of publications together. So you could see that there's a lot of papers we've published together. And one thing that I really admire Dr. Bambang is that firstly is when I first started my career in 2016, Dr. Bambang was the one that was mentoring me as a new academic, finding my footing in the university. So Dr. Bambang was always there to give me advice. And I still admire from 2016 until now, 2025, he still looks the same. So I'm just wondering, what's the youth formula? What's the secret recipe that he doesn't seem to grow old? He still looks the same as I see him in 2016, and he still looks the same now in 2025. So there you have Dr. Bambang, because he's always cheerful and is always very friendly. So thank you, Dr. Bambang, for your sharing earlier. This afternoon, I'll be sharing about building innovative and sustainable education management in Society 5.0. And when I first got this title, I was first thing that came to my mind, I was thinking, wow, this is quite a big title for the webinar today. But according to Mr. Fadli, he says that this is the title that was planned by the students and the organizers, and I took up the challenge. I was thinking, if the students wants this title, then I am going to try my level best to deliver this title. And this is a very good title to start with, because we are in era of Society 5.0, and how can we apply educational management innovatively and, most importantly, sustain such practices. So I would like to just do a recap before we go into what it means by innovation and sustainable educational management practices. Before we go into that, I'd just like to do a little bit of recap about what was education we envision should be. So just 5 years ago, we envisioned that education should be, we have all these catchphrases. For example, we had this phrase of reimagining education. And there was certain perspective saying that, okay, we should revitalize education rather than reimagine education. And of course, we have the term that many of us are quite familiar, that is 21st century education. So we envision a lot of innovative approaches to teaching, learning, curriculum design, assessment, and most importantly, educational leadership. And this is all needed is because we want to respond to the needs of many of our students, to the communities and societies in the 21st century. But there was one major incident that happened in human history. Instead of us envisioning education that can be revitalized, reimagined towards a 21st century education, we were thrown into what we all experience called the new normal in education. And in this phase, we notice that these are the halls of education universities that is quite, we are familiar with. We have auditoriums and seminar halls. And we notice that these places in which that education used to take place, in which that we have a lot of lectures and a lot of classes and a lot of these sort of conferences that used to take place in these halls are now all of a sudden empty. Okay, and as much as these halls of education universities, they are empty, but what was going on is that education still continued. Education didn't stop. So education still proceeded, education still continued. And when we look at schools, and we can see that schools that was known to have a lot of desks and tables, and these desks and tables are filled with students and teachers, and there's a lot of classroom dynamics and activities that is going on. And this area and this situation in school is also empty. And while the buildings and the schools and universities are all empty, but what is most important is that education that we all hold very dear and we all recognize as a very important element is still going on. So education is still being delivered, education is still continuing, and it was still ongoing, but it took place in a different form. So we all know that how was education being continued? So these are some examples of our children learning and doing their homework online. So you could see here that this is a child who is at home, and he has a laptop and he has a headset and he has his book, and he is learning through the laptop. And you could see that this child also has some note takings, and she is learning through a tab. So you could see that education that was so used to being conducted in universities, in which that we have everyone experiencing the same educational setting, the same auditorium, the same classrooms. Now the dynamics has changed in such a way that the facilities are not the same for everyone. Children are having different form of facilities. Some have a big laptop, some do not have a laptop, some have a tab, some even do not have a tab, they only have a handphone, and some even had to share their devices among their siblings, 2 or 3 people sharing a device together. So we could see that education was ongoing, but is taking a different form. And the way that education was learned and being conducted is so much more different than what we used to know happens in university and in classroom. And here we can have another example of a child that is listening very attentively to the teachers, and education is being conducted online. And you can see that the difference here is, as much as education was ongoing, but what we are so used in universities and what we are so used in schools is the interaction with our peers, is the interaction with teachers. So that kind of atmosphere was missing. So as much as we could learn, but that interaction with teachers, the peers, with the people around us, that was the vital element that was missing. When a child comes to school and a child is sad and a child does not have a good mood, a teacher with a warm embrace to a child, a teacher or just a tap on the shoulder of a child and say that, don't worry, let's cheer up and be happy and see what we can do. Just that small motions of encouragement can make a very big difference in the student or the child's life just for that one day. But in a online environment, such gestures, such actions cannot be done because everyone is in their own space. So we can see that the child here is learning, but he's in your own world. He's not learning with the other peers in which that you can hear chatter, you can hear people interacting, and you can talk to them. And what happens to the lecturers? What happens to the teachers? Now you have this screen here that, you have a lecturer here who is talking to screens, and you could see that what the teachers who are used to talking to students in the classroom are now forced to change. They are now talking to screens, and you could see that the body language of the teacher, you could see his facial reaction. You can see that as much as the teacher is trying to talk, you can see that there is a sense of nervousness. There's a sense of insecurity there because the teacher is not sure that whatever that I'm talking, is my children listening? Is my children understanding? Can they even hear me well? Do they have the right facilities? Do they have the laptop, the handphones, the tabs to actually listen to my learning well? Or even are they even listening to me in the first place? Or are they going to different websites and playing games in the background? So the teacher is very uncertain, and you could see the body language that is happening here. And here, during this moment, we all had a very universal language that all of us can relate to. So that universal language is, can you see my screen? You are muted. Mute your mic. So these are all universal language that we were so used to 5 years ago. And if you look at another situation here, now this situation is a little bit unique in such a way that the teacher is actually in the school. So the teacher is in the school, the teacher is in the library, but the difference is the children is at home. So the children that is supposed to be in school with the teacher, it's at home, and education is being delivered and taken place here. But the difference is that school, where education is supposed to be, it only contains the teachers now, whereas the students are missing. But here's the bigger question now. What is the principals doing? What are the school leaders in this particular situation doing? And where are they? And so now I have another picture here. And this is what we call the virtual principal. And these are principals who are leading schools behind a computer. So what they are used to seeing principals in schools, walking around, checking and having meetings and doing administrative work and interacting with students, parents, and teachers. And all of a sudden, all of these processes now takes place behind the screen. And this is a virtual principal. And you could see what is so different from a virtual principal to principals that we so used to seeing in schools is that first you have this principal having a nice headphone there, and then you have a nice cup of tea or cup of coffee that goes along with the management process, the daily management process of a school. And then you have a principal with a slightly unusual attire. The principal is wearing a nice short pants, but nobody could see that informal attire because the laptop cameras are above. And you also have multiple devices. You have laptops, you have a nice table light there, and you have the cameras there. And you could see the principal has up to 4 different devices. And all of this happens and always needed is because there are so many multiple tasks that the principal needs to do, and they need to lead the school, and you could see that it is a very challenging task. So what actually triggered all of this? Why this sudden transformation? And most importantly, this is not a transformation that allowed us time to prepare. We did not have time to do research and say that, is this something that people will like? Is this something people will be comfortable? We did not have time to develop online modules. Teachers did not have time to alter or change their curriculum to suit this kind of education environment. things just happened all of a sudden. The pandemic became so serious, and schools just decided to shut down, and there was very little to no preparation in terms of school leadership, and there was also very little to no preparation in terms of teaching practices. And what is the trigger? And the trigger we all know is the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's not easy to imagine, let alone change, unless there is a particular circumstances force us to do. So the COVID-19 forced a change to happen. And it is not easy for us to change, but there was this particular situation, circumstance that forced us to do. But as much as we see that a lot of negative effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was also a lot of positive that came out of it. So one of the first things we saw that COVID forced us, both the organization, the leaders, to adapt quickly. So they needed to change situation quickly and need to adapt quickly. And we saw that in terms of education, instead of just using whiteboards and chalks and marker pens and projectors, we now have different variety of technologies. So we are using technologies in a different way. So not just Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Meet that we are used to, and what we are using now is that we are using a different variety of mediums. So we have radio, we have television, we have synchronous, asynchronous kind of technology that helps us to deliver learning. And we also see that teachers are started to collaborate. They started to work together much, much more closely. So I'm not saying that teacher collaboration didn't happen in schools before COVID, but teacher collaboration happened much more rapidly. And there are more leaders, new leaders especially, emerging, especially due to the impact of the COVID-19. And you can see that there is a new way of focusing on teaching. So teaching was no longer the same. We needed to redesign many of our teaching modules. We needed to think a different way on how to keep our students engaged so that they not just tune in and not dial in online and not learn anything. They take away something, they learn away something. And there is a challenge, especially when we are teaching small children. So when you're teaching small children, you're teaching students with diverse needs, students with special needs. There is a need to come up with different creative, innovative solution. So the new normal has forced us in a way to unlearn what we have always known. And what we have always known, we have always known that education takes place behind the rows of desks in schools, and education takes place in lecture and auditorium halls in university. So the COVID-19 in the new normal in education has forced us to unlearn what is meant that education is and how is it delivered. So education does not necessarily needs to be delivered only in schools, not only be delivered in universities. Education can also be delivered digitally. And if we do it well, it can be taken place and it can be effective. So we learned until today that not only education can be delivered digitally, education can also complement the traditional learnings that is happening in schools. So we're not saying that schools can shut down, universities can shut down, and we don't need schools and universities now. No, now we are saying that as much as we have learned that education can take place digitally, but in the world that we are living now, which is post-pandemic, the online digital education needs to complement the traditional learning in schools. So that means that school life needs to return to normal. We need schools. School needs to reopen. And that's what exactly happened. So once the COVID-19 pandemic was under control and we are reaching to the stage of an endemic era, we needed to live with the virus. We needed to adjust with the COVID-19 virus because we know that COVID is here to stay and we cannot do anything about it. And it's going to be here to stay and it's going to be here. And we need to see school life returning back to normal. Children, teachers are going back to school and adjusting to the new normal of living with the virus. So just when everything seems to be okay, everything seems to be back to normal, the schools and universities face another new challenge. And this challenge is even more challenging and even more pressing than ever before. That is when the emergence of artificial intelligence came into place. And this is when platforms and software such as ChatGPT was introduced in November 2022. So we saw the emergence of ChatGPT in November 2022, and ever since November 2022, there have been many other platforms and softwares that has come along the way. And I'm not sure whether I've seen a more panic reaction among educators in recent months and years. So ChatGPT is an AI program that can write essays, complete tasks such as students' homework. ChatGPT and other AI programs that we have now are changing the way we teach and we assess students. So the way that we assess students has to change because now essays and homeworks can be easily generated using ChatGPT. And education now can take place because ChatGPT can be a virtual coach now. Information can be easily gathered using ChatGPT and other sort of platform. So here comes the question to schools now. So what do schools do? We have a choice. Is either we fight the wave of artificial intelligence or we surf with it, we go with it. So if we are looking at addressing this challenge, we also need to look at how is school fundamentally structured. So we can see that this is how the typical organizational chart of our school looks like. So you have the head here, and then you have the assistants and deputies, and then you have the middle leaders, and then you have all the colleagues and the teachers that is below them. And you could see that one very apparent change or very apparent insights in this figure is you could see the size of the head of the people. So this person at the top seems to be having a very big head, and the head kind of gets smaller and smaller, and the people at the bottom totally does not have the head. And it's because they are not intended to think. Yeah, they're not intended to think. They are not thinkers. They are not seen as thinkers in an educational organization. They are seen as the person who execute the ideas and the brains and the solutions that has been put forward by the top management. So their job is to just get the work done. Their job is not to think and to question whether whatever that is being done is correct. So what is wrong here is about who is the thinkers in the school. What we seem to look like a neat organizational chart, and you see that, oh, that's the principal, or that's the deputy, that's the teacher leaders, that's the middle leaders, these are the teachers. So it seems to be a very neat organizational chart. It's a very structured, it's very organized. But actually what seems to be very structured and organized is actually not the case in school. You could see that in an organization in school, there are many things happening. There are many issues, there are many conflicts, there are many trusts and many distrusts. There are people that there are individuals, that teachers who like to work with another teacher. There is another group of teachers who don't like to work with another teacher. There's teachers who hate one another. There's relationships that is strong and the relationships that is very weak. And there are people who likes each other and don't like each other. So there's a lot of things happening in the school, right? So we need to unlearn what we have always known. What is leadership in schools? What is neat and structured is actually not the case. So in the new normal in education, as how we are in now, we need to unlock what is new forms of leadership. What are teaching practices that can be enacted, especially in the new normal in education? And this is what we call, network-based. And why are we emphasizing on a network base of leadership and a network base of teaching innovation? It's because the times have changed. We need to transition from a formal organization that is very used to top-down, divided roles, independent teachers doing individualized work, and move towards a system where everything is integrated. People are interacting. People are interdependent with one another. And when we're talking about interdependent, it's not just inside the organization, it's outside the organization. So we are leading one another for each other and having that interrelationships. And the reason why we are talking about a network base is because Pierre Levy okay, who is known to talk about network leadership. And his famous quote was that no one knows everything, but everyone knows something. And all the knowledge that we have resides in some form of network. And to communicate across what exactly this means is that we need to see how the sharing of information happens today and what happens in a typical lecture and education setting. In 2005, you can see that everyone is seated and paying attention to a delivery or a lecture or a webinar, a talk that is being conducted, a workshop is conducted, and everyone is seated and paying attention. And you could see that in 2005, their attention, their eyes was towards the speaker. But in 2013, now, this is 2013 and now it's 2025, in 2013 onwards, the way that knowledge is being gained and delivered and shared has changed. In 2013, rather than people being attentive to the speaker, it's the device that is being attentive to the speaker. So they are using the mobile phones, they're using the tab to record and post, to share, to look back, to revise. So the way people are learning has changed. People has no longer use traditional ways of learning, and most importantly, it's not just them learning now. And when they record, they share to people around them, they share to the communities, they share to friends, they share to their family members. So whatever that is being recorded is shared and stored and being posted online on social medias. So the network has grown. People are no longer keeping it within themselves. They are now having people around them and sharing information around them. And this is a very nice figure that communicates this very very nicely, that the internet in 2023, every minute means that every 60 seconds, there is at least 2.4 million people searching Google. 694,000 videos are being viewed. 347,000 Twitters are being tweeted. So you can see Instagram, 10.4 million videos are being viewed per minute. So this is how information is rotating, how information is being shared, and how information is being stored, and how information is being viewed. So if this is happening in the world, we need to change how learning happens in classroom. So we cannot have a traditional form of learning in which that teachers are centered. We cannot have a traditional form of learning in which that the teacher talks and the lecturer talks and the lecture takes the knowledge is generated from the stage and students are just taking notes and every student is having the same learning environment. But it has to change from the teacher or the lecturer to the student. So there needs to be some form of collaborative learning. There needs to be flipped learning. There needs to be blended learning. We need to have personalized learning. And most importantly, when we have a student-centric learning, we need to have some form of method on how do we analyze, is a student learning and or not, and to what extent. And that's where learning analytics comes. So what was traditional education? From a teacher-centric, we need to transition to the future of education, which is a student-centric learning. Now, this is what education is supposed to be. But at the same time, how education transpires in the classroom, it also depends on the quality of teachers that delivers that education. The quality of education in the classroom cannot exceed the quality of the teachers. So teachers needs to have knowledge and teachers needs to learn the best practices and then they can deliver such practices and knowledge into the classroom. So that means that they need to have that network. They need to have something that they can network with and they can learn with. And let me just illustrate this nice diagram about two individuals. So you have individuals A, and this can be teacher A and teacher B, right? So teacher A has three networks, three contacts, three people that she works very closely with. And teacher B can be a male teacher and also have five teachers that teacher B works very closely with. And you could see that teacher A and teacher B, the difference here is in a network form of leadership. Teacher A seems to be having a very poor creativity and innovative performance is because teacher A is just working with the teachers in the same school, in the same organization. So as much as knowledge and teaching practices are shared, and we have what we recognize as professional learning communities, teacher learning. So all these concepts is still being talked about and researched, and it happens within school. But the future has to have a different access to resources. So you could see that teacher B, okay, has high levels of creativity and innovative performance is because teacher B is actually not just networking with teachers within the school. Teacher B is also networking with teachers outside the school. So these are teachers that has connections with other teachers outside the school. And when this happens, means that whatever knowledge and whatever best teaching practices that is being held or being obtained from these teachers is being shared in a network. So what I'm trying to say that teaching has to go beyond the school. Teaching has to go in such a way that schools are working with one another. Teachers from different schools are working with another, sharing best practices, sharing knowledge, so that that knowledge and best practices is not contained within the school. It is contained within a network. And this is where you have the quote, where birds of a feather flock together. So often people find one another attractive, and they develop a very positive relationship because the people think like them. We have like-minded people. So our networks that we work with, it should not be heterogeneous. It should be a homogeneous. And because of why are we emphasizing on a homogeneous and not a heterogeneous? Because in school itself, you have different types of teachers. Okay, and there is this pencil metaphor that talks about a teacher's ability to adopt technology in their schools and adopt technology in classrooms. And the technology adoption practices is very important because it plays a very important role in how education is developed and delivered in the classroom. So this is a very brilliant illustration of, or shall I say, like a metaphoric representation of how parts of a pencil. Okay, and we know that pencil is a very important tool, especially for children's in terms of learning how to write. And this metaphoric representation of a pencil can reflect the kind of level of education that or reform that happens at your school. So which part of the pencil are you? And how does your school adapt to educational technology? Are we the leaders? So these are teachers, people that takes technology first on, and they are early adopters, very less resistance. Are we the sharp ones? So the sharp ones are here, the one that constantly needs to be sharpened, because the leaders cannot remain sharp all the time, and you need to continue sharpening so that the leaders are always ahead. So are we the teachers that plays a supporting role to the leaders, who are also early adopters, who are also willing to grasp technology, learn from mistakes? Or are we the wood? Are we the wood that falls behind the leaders and the sharp ones? So we will use technology, but sometimes, we will think about when do we use it, when we will not use it, how do we set it up, how do we keep it running? Or are we the Pharaoh rules? This is the Pharaoh rules. Okay, and you see that the Pharaoh rules here, those are people who hang on tightly to what they know. Okay, and they feel that this is important, and what I used to do is the right way. I don't want to change. I like traditional teaching, and I feel that education is best delivered that way. That is the Pharaoh rules. So you can see the Pharaoh rules is represented in this way. And you see that Pharaoh rules is usually the purpose is just to hold the eraser and just to hold the pencil together. And you also have teachers who are the erasers in the school. So they try to undo as much innovative practices that is being done. They are the ones who tell that this cannot be done, and this is nonsense, and this will not work. So these are the teachers who have this kind of mindset. But you also have teachers who are the hangers. Okay, so they will like to attend all the seminars, but they just don't do anything at all. Okay, so you ask me to use this. Okay, I will use. I will try. You ask me to attend the workshop. I will go. You ask me me to listen to this speaker and see what it's all about. So I will do it. But what do I do with the knowledge is absolutely nothing. So I don't do anything with it. So what kind of teacher are we forming in schools? So there needs to be a plan of action. So the kind of teachers that we form, the kind of teachers that we train, and the kind of teachers that we want in school has to have an action plan. And that is where the leaders play a big role. So the leaders must build and must connect to networks. So when leaders are actively participating in a network, they ensure that the network is diverse enough. They ensure that their schools is working with another schools. There is always that element of refreshing and reform. So they reinforce the necessary strategies to the network. They align the projects of the networks to their school strategic goals. They recognize teachers' individual and the network's group contributions. They build creativity rather than just strive for harmony. They enable solutions rather than just provide solutions. And most importantly, they also enable autonomy at the lower levels and minimize organization frictions. So when I talk about enable autonomy, is enabling teachers to be thinkers, not just doer. So you see the organizational chart that I showed earlier, where the teachers do not have the head, is because they are expected to just do the work and not think about it. But we want to enable teachers to have that autonomy, to be thinkers in their school, and that can be done through a network. And the network can be done in such a way that there needs to have some form of expectations. So leadership is helping the network work smarter, be smarter. So learn by doing, connecting people, engaging in conversation, initiating change, adding value to knowledge, sharing expectations. And in this whole process, Larry Prusak has talked about what is knowledge flow, what is network leadership, and how does it relate to knowledge flow. So Larry says about knowledge flowing in existing pathways. So every organization and schools, we already have some form of network. Some schools have network within the schools in which the teachers know who to work with, and within the department, within a unit. And some schools do it a little bit better, in which that they already start working with other schools and not necessarily schools just within the system or just within the district. They start to work with schools internationally in other countries. So they are started to build that pathway, the knowledge pathway. And Larry says that if you want to understand how to improve the flow of knowledge, we need to understand the pathway, the flow of knowledge that happens within the school. And the idea is to extend that flow of knowledge, the pathway of knowledge, and network leadership can do that. So there are a few things that we can do as leaders of the organization. First thing is we need to change the attitude and set some form of expectations. That means that first we need to have a very clear vision and goal. And this is very important. And the idea is to communicate to teachers that learning has to change. We need to have a student-centric mentality rather than the teacher-centric. And it's not just communicating to teachers and telling them that we need to change. We need to have a plan on how to actually change. We need to teach teachers what it means to be a teacher-centric methodology and learning techniques rather than a student-centric. And we need to lead by example. Leaders need to build trust relationships, and leaders needs to know that leadership should not be just a top-down process. So leadership can also be a bottoms-up process. And how do we ensure that a bottom-up process is efficient and effective? And that applies observation. So if we observe the processes that happens with the school and we are willing to give teacher the autonomy, then observation will become a very key tool, not just to motivate teachers, not just to strengthen their skills, but to build a trusting relationship. Now, there are other practices that we can grow together. First is we need to empower teachers to lead. So we need to inform teachers that their job and responsibilities is not just to teach. They can be leaders in the school, and that leadership can take in formal roles and informal roles. And leadership does not necessarily need to be teachers being appointed in an appointment letter and say that you are a leader. A teacher who is good in creative teaching, innovative teaching, can be a leader in terms of coaching and also training other teachers in the school, and not just within the school. In a network, leadership is to train teachers within that network so that we grow together. And that means that leaders, we need to support teachers with capacity to lead at a very early stage. We need to share that leadership, share that autonomy, share the decision making. But at the same time, we need to also establish that there is a clear chain of command. Who is in charge of what, and what support is needed, and in what places. And when we establish that, when we allow teachers to lead, it means that we also held teachers accountable. And at the same time, it's not just getting teachers to lead. At the same time, we want to create that conducive school climate in which that the whole school community benefits from it. And that means that the learning does not just take place between the principals, between the teachers, between the students, but parents also play a very big part in education of their children. And this is particularly important for parents whose background come from low socioeconomic status. So they are not very well to do, and especially children from low economic status. There's a lot of research has shown that children and parents who come from low socioeconomic status, usually their education is not at par. Usually their education is not the same. They usually perform poorly compared to other students. So this is where we need a strategy where we reach out to parents, we reach out to students, especially those with low socioeconomic status. We show them that we care and we love and we want them to be good educators and grow in education and to be good people of the society. So we look for contributions. We need to look for contribution from parents who are well-to-do. We need to look at private entities. We need to look at social enterprises in which that they can come and step up and contribute to education. So not just contribute to education in terms of monetary, but also contribute to education in terms of involving themselves in schools. And the benefit is to get the wider community involved, directly involved. Some people say that, can I just give money and say that I'm involved in the school and I'm involved in the education? No, giving money is one thing, but getting involved in the school activities is another thing. So that means that we are not just investing in school activities, we are investing in the school and improving it. And this is where this whole debate about now with the rise of AI, artificial intelligence, with the rise of technology, and almost daily and weekly, we are seeing that things are changing. New AI softwares, new technologies, new ways of learning and teaching is all changing every day. So what is the role of the teachers now? Can artificial intelligence replace teachers? Well, I take this inspiration from President Barack Obama, and this is a quote from 2010, and he says that from the moment a student enters school, the most important factor is their success. It's not the color of their skin or the income of their parents. It's the person standing at the front of the classroom. And who is that person? That's the teacher. So to answer whether AI can replace teachers is I will show you what is a teacher like in a school. And a teacher is more than a person that just delivers education. A teacher has different roles in a school. So a teacher is a counselor and a psychologist to a problem-filled child. A teacher can also be a police officer that controls a child, disciplines a child. A teacher can also be a travel agent or scheduling trips for the year. Where does the children go and which school trip and what are the events? The teacher can be a confidant in which that wipes the tears of a child crying. The teacher can be a banker who helps to collect money for tons of different activities happening in school. A teacher can be a librarian showing different storybooks and different adventures, novels to students. A teacher can be a custodian who takes care of the little messes and takes care of the children in the school. A teacher can be a psychic who knows that everybody and each and every one of their students, what are their characters, what are their attitudes, and what is their capability. A teacher can also be a photographer who will always keep pictures of children in the school, especially when they are young. A teacher can be a mother and father who are mother and father by the day, and the child goes back at night to be with their parents. A teacher can be a doctor, can easily detect that when a child comes to school when they are sick and not feeling well. A teacher can be a politician who knows the laws and knows how to go about and how to do a trick or two to come up advantages and to improvise something. A teacher can be a party planner for holidays and birthdays in school. A teacher can be a decorator, make the classroom more vibrant, more colorful. A teacher can be a news reporter, updating the school about what is happening in the country. The teacher can be a detective, okay, and in looking for some of the sensitive and problems in the school. A teacher can be both a clown and comedian. A teacher can make jokes, brighten people's day, brightens the students' day. A teacher can also be a dietitian, ensuring that their children and their students eat good food during the school hours. And so, as much as we see there's a lot of debate about AI replacing a teacher, we also need to recognize that a teacher is not just a person with a singular role. A teacher plays multiple roles in a school, and that role does not mean that just to deliver education. A teacher plays all these roles. So my perspective is that, can AI replace teacher? No. AI is there to complement a teacher, because a teacher can never be replaced. And I would like to end this presentation with a quote from Benjamin Franklin. Without continual growth and progress, words such as improvement, achievement, and success have absolutely no meaning at all. So thank you to all of you for your attention. And I hope that you have learned something from this presentation. And this is my email address. And feel free to contact me, and I welcome some Q&A that you have for this presentation. Thank you.
Okay. That's a very wonderful presentation and very comprehensive, Dr. Donny. You escort us to explore about COVID and then post-pandemic, and then how AI is changing education, and then how those can affect the way school principals can change their ways of leading. Now I think, yeah, it's time for Q&A. So if there are many, I think there are many participants here interested in learning more about what you have discussed, Dr. Donny. Let's start with Mr. Maulana, and then after that we can go on to Mr. Arman. You can turn on your microphone. Let us know where you're from, and then
Okay. First of all, thank you for University Samsantara for holding these international seminars. Eventually, one of the lecturers in agriculture faculty, and then I'm very honored to be in this seminar. And then also, I want to thank to all of the speakers. This very great presentation, especially for Professor Donny. Very nice. It is a new insight for me to see how the education in this era is changing. My questions, I go straight to a question. First of all, I want to have a questions about how the teacher dealing the growing of AI, especially in developing country, because Australia is developed countries have a good curricula for that one, but in our case, it's gonna be different. How we dealt with that, we deal with that, and then how we assess the student progress of knowledge based on this matters. That's the first. And then the second one, me, for example, I'm as parents also dealing this new educational environment as the complexity is getting increased, making more complex to teach our students and then also our children's by this technology and social interaction that making broad complex. That's only the question that I can give for Professor Johnny, and then thank you. Hopefully, very good insight later. Thank you.
would you like
Thank
to
you.
directly address Dr. Donny, or would you like to like some more questions?
I think I'll address the
Okay.
question by Mona first. I think that there are two questions.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
that the questions of how do we tackle the challenge of AI And I think that this is a question that many people not in developing countries and developed countries are facing, and especially in terms of assessing students. How do we assess students, and how do we ensure that whether the students are submitting their work or submitting an AI generated work? I think that one of the most important aspect that we need to just take a step back and just to reflect is, what is AI and what is its capability? You see, the phenomena that we are facing here is not a new phenomena. Okay, the AI is a new phenomena, but the situation is not a new phenomena. And what I mean by this is, we experience exactly the same phenomena when calculator was first introduced. And when calculator was first introduced in education, everyone was losing their mind and said that this is going to lose children's capability. They are not going to be able to think on how to calculate well. They are going to depend on a tool, and the tool is going to do the calculation, and they're going to lose the skills, and they're not going to able to memorize and all this. So this is exactly what happened when calculator was first introduced, and there was so much of discussion, there was so much of debate, there was, most importantly, so much of resistance in the introduction of calculator. But what happened today? We see calculator almost everywhere. It's in our phone, and you can purchase calculators in the stationery store. In the store, calculators are widely accepted in schools, and most importantly, is now accepted in assessments and in tests as well. And the calculator has also evolved into a scientific calculator that you can do much more advanced calculation. So what do we do with AI? We cannot stop AI. AI is here to stay. The education has evolved in such a way that AI is going to stay and we cannot stop it. But what do we do with AI? I give you some examples of what I do in AI. First thing is, in my class, I encourage students to use AI. And that is a very important tool for teaching and learning. I do encourage them. But at the same time, I told them, okay, and this can be a little bit funny. There was a class I started, and this is usually a question in the first semester. Students ask me, Dr. Donnie, can we use AI? So I did tell them, I said, yeah, you can use AI. I am not going to stop you using AI because I use AI and I love AI. And I said, you can use AI for teaching and learning. You can use AI for your assessment. But what happens is that when I submit when you submit your assignment through a system called Turnitin is going to inform me where was the input from the assignment from. And if Turnitin informs me that a student named ChatGPT wrote the assignment, I need to give the marks to ChatGPT. I cannot give the marks to you because the student named ChatGPT is the one who did the assignment. So do you think that is fair? If you think it's not fair, then you need to show me you are the one who did the work. And if that's the case, use ChatGPT as a tool to assist you, but not use ChatGPT as a tool to write the assignment for you. So if you think that you want the marks, you need to show me that you deserve it, and it's you who actually wrote the marks. And it's not just instructing them. I even give them an example. The assignments that we do, we ask them to come up with an essay. I generated an essay from ChatGPT, and I broke my class students into groups, and I said that this is an assignment written by ChatGPT. I want you to improvise this assignment now. And in the first 5 minutes, it was such a great struggle because they all thought it was such a good assignment. And they was like, how do we improvise this? This is already a very good assignment. And I said, think carefully, because the topic was on leadership, and ChatGPT generated contents based on leadership. But I asked them, how is leadership practiced in schools? Is it the same in business? Is it the same in health? So there is leadership in business, there is leadership in corporate, there is leadership in health. What ChatGPT is saying is leadership in general that can be applicable in any situation. But we want leadership in schools. Now think about how is leadership enacted and practiced in schools. And suddenly they start to think, and the essay that I give them has been totally transformed, because they thought that it was a good essay, but after thinking about what is written and what is actually happening in school, they decided to revise that essay, put in more references, put in more inputs, and it becomes a totally brand new, so much more improved essay. And they learn from that and saying that, wait a minute, I cannot just depend on AI because AI is there to help me, but the answers is not enough. It's my experiences, my knowledge, my background that makes the work better. So it's supposed to complement, not to replace the student. So the idea is not to remove AI, but to tell them that you can use it to your advantage, but not to replace you. So that's this an example. So as a parent, I will suggest that you encourage your children to learn from it as well at home, because parents, you are in a situation now that is more advantageous than ever before, because parents, we do not have time. You are working and you have other commitments, and you just do not have time to sometimes teach your child. But now you are in a situation where someone can teach your child 24 hours a day and to a certain extent free of charge. And the child doesn't have to go to school to get education. So with the right prompts, you can get your child to learn from ChatGPT. So not just asking them to use ChatGPT, but to use it in the right way. So give them the right prompts, program it, and let them learn from it. I give you an example of prompts. You see, for how I teach leadership in my class, is that I put a prompt. I am a teacher, a very senior teacher in a classroom, and I do not like innovation and change. Whatever that my principal and my school leaders communicate and ask me to embrace new things, I resist. So embrace that character and talk to me as a principal. So I put that prompt in. And my students who are learning leadership are all assuming the role of principal. So they are going to try to talk to this very difficult teacher, and what can they learn from it? So what do I say to this teacher? Is it the right way or the wrong way? And we ask ChatGPT, after I've responded, what do you think I can improve? And ChatGPT will say, what you have communicated is not so good enough. You need to look at this area. You need to say at this area. You need to be sensitive about this area. So that's where AI is teaching us. So it's about using it in the right way.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Means that
Thank you,
we need to have the fundamental to have teaching something, because the fundamental cannot be taught by the ChatGPT, right? It means
That's
that
right.
we give them the basic, and then they use the tools as Copilot, for example. We use Copilot, for example, as their companion, and then after that we go along with it. And then
That's
the second
right.
one, as a parents, maybe we can go playing with it with the ChatGPT, and then we give the prompt on it, right?
That's
Maybe
right.
that's the
That's right.
things that I will try later. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Nice, very great insight to it. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now I think we can move on to Mr. Arman. Just like to pose the questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Mr. Doni. Thank you. My name is Arman Tirta Jaya. I am an English teacher of senior high school in Bandung. So I was thinking of doing innovation in the classroom, but it isn't. So because the response of my students is not very good, they get bored of my innovation. So my question is, how do we survive with the innovation? Should we always do the innovation in the classroom so the students can enjoy my classroom every time? So what is your suggestions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arman. I think that is an excellent question, and that situates the discussion that we have today, moving from a teacher-centric learning to a student-centric learning. My suggestion is to make them the teacher in the classroom. So give them the topic and tell them that if you are the teacher, what do you want to learn in this topic and how you want to learn it? And give them, you just have to have one class to do that, and you have a series of topic and say that, okay, leadership in schools, okay, teacher leadership, student leadership. So these are different topics. Break them into groups and say that if you are the teacher, how do you think that you want to learn this topic, and how are you going to teach it, and what are you going to do? and let them do it. And you are the facilitator of that process. So you said, okay, thank you for the idea. Next week, I would like this group. You are going to teach on teacher leadership, okay, to the whole class. And you are that facilitator of that learning. So you are there to monitor whether what they are teaching is correct or wrong. And you are there to improvise and give them tips and how to make things better. So as much as they are teaching it, but at the same time, they are learning about it. So sometimes mistakes can happen, but they are part of that learning process. They are the one who is teaching. So the participation is much higher because as students, we see their friends who are delivering it. And sometimes we can learn so much from them because the way of delivering it is different. And sometimes we just pay attention because we like to see our friends talking and doing it. But as a teacher, how are we relevant in that process? We are the facilitators of that learning. We ensure that whatever they say is correct. And we ensure that, when students are teaching, the classroom tends to be out of control. So that's where the teachers play a role, as in what moments do students sit and listen and ask questions, and what moments do students have that opportunity to interact and ask questions. So this is where we be facilitators. So a student-centered learning is the teachers being facilitators of that learning. I will suggest that you try it because I showed the diagram about what is learning happening in 2023, how many YouTubes, how many tweets and all this. That is our youngsters, our latest generations, and that is what they are doing. So the attention span is very less unless you ask them to do the action. So that will switch the dynamics entirely altogether. So my suggestion is you try it and see how it works.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohan.
Right. So we still have plenty of questions for 2 to 3 questions. If other participants are willing to ask some questions. Okay. We have Miss Novalia. Yeah, please. Screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adam, about your explaining. This is about how to building innovative and sustainable education management and society 5.0. But what do you think? What do you think about challenge and opportunities for building innovative and sustainable education management in development countries like in our countries? What is the challenge and opportunities? Thank you very much.
You mean what are the challenges? What I've just presented is an opportunity to remain innovative and sustainable. And because I think the traditional method of understanding leadership and management that is to focus on a school. So when we are just focused on the processes that happens in the school, we tend to overlook what are the capabilities that can happen outside of it. So the idea of leadership and management is to go beyond the school, is to go outside of the school and to see what opportunities are out there. Because we're so used to focusing on the school and improving. And yes, I'm not saying that we don't do that. We need to do that. But at the same time, we are also recognizing the importance of parents. We are also recognizing the importance of the community. Okay, but at the same time, we also need to recognize the importance of other school leaders and other teachers out there and how we can connect with them, how we can learn with them. So learning happens in school now. We have professional learning communities. We have teachers going for trainings and workshops and improving themselves, and we call that teacher learning. But the learning is still contained in the school. And again, the quality of the education cannot exceed the quality of the teachers. So if teachers are just learning within themselves and the quality is at average at best, that's the average mark that you can hit. But if you start networking with teachers out there who are much more innovative, we are known to have reputation in best practices in certain areas, and we build that network, that's where the knowledge flows from that network into the school. And that's where improvement happens. So it's not just improvement within the school, but improvement within that network. And for me, it's not a practice that is just applicable for developed countries. This practice can also take place in developing countries, but it's just that what kind of networks do we want to build? So we need to identify what is the networks that is available out there, and how do we build that network, and what are the processes that can be put in place to ensure that that network remains sustainable and successful.
You for your explaining, but perhaps one question again. How is effect to social interaction and a human daily life? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to networking, there can be two forms of networking. First of all, in terms of social interaction, we need to have social interaction in order to build networks. And that can take two forms. One can be a formal interaction, one can be an informal interaction. And when I talk about formal interaction, is the use of social medias, is the use of tools and collaboration activities that we have. So for example, Microsoft Teams, you have a capability to build a team chat, a team group in which that a network of people can be in that platform, share and dialogue and talk about things, share practices. We have WhatsApp, in which that people can form groups and share resources. So interaction doesn't have to be formally like what we are doing in this webinar today. It doesn't have to be in formal trainings and workshops. It can also take informal form in the use of social media. So there are teachers who are comfortable to interact formally, and there are also teachers who are comfortable to interact informally. And that's network right there. The idea is to use the capability of that network both in formal and informal form.
Thank you, Mr. Donny Adams, for your explaining. It's very completely. Perhaps Iwan benefit for us here, and I hope so. It will be there is a new innovation in all of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, do you have anybody else? Other participants? Right. Maybe Ms. Tuti would be the last. Yeah, sure.
Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity given to me. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tuti Heriati, a semester 2 doctoral student in education science at UNIAS. Mr. Dani Adam, I am very interested in the material you have presented. I have two questions I would like to ask you. My first question, what recommendations are given to improve the performance of innovative and sustainable education management in Society 5.0? And my second question, how to evaluate the effectiveness of innovation and sustainable education management strategies in Society 5.0? That's my question, Mr. Adam.
Thank you, Tuti. I think to answer that question is for us to recognize what is the form of knowledge production in a school, in an educational settings, and what do we do with it. Traditionally, we recognize that education takes place in schools and universities, but we have now moved on and know that it does not just take place in schools and universities. Education can take place digitally. We have also understood that there are educational technologies out there to complement traditional classroom teachings that is happening. And in that whole process is how does knowledge being produced and shared across. So the idea of an educational management, innovation and sustainable is what do we do with that knowledge? Do we keep that knowledge contained within the school, within the setting, or do we produce more knowledge and share that across the school and educational setting? And if you would intend to keep it within the school, then we don't do anything different than what we are doing now, because that's what we are doing. We are keeping the knowledge within the schools. But if you want to extend and share that knowledge, and most importantly, not just share, receive knowledge as well, is to have some form of network. And that network needs to be built, it needs to be sustained, and it needs to be practiced as well and kept active. And the first thing that needs to be done is you need to recognize what is the networks that is around you. What can contribute knowledge to the school, not just within, but outside of the school. And when we recognize that networks, we work on it, we build on it, and we sustain it. And most importantly, in that whole practices of sustaining it is where innovative knowledge will be shared. Teachers are going to start sharing what are their challenges. Teachers are going to also start sharing how to overcome them. Teachers are going to share what works for them and what not works for them. And teachers are also going to share that this is something that we need to be alert of. And these are the news about certain situations or certain things that is happening in terms of teaching and learning. And most importantly, what works best practices for them. And that can only take place if we form such networks. And if that network is just within the school, as how I illustrated for individual A, then the creativity is there, the innovation is there, but it's going to be very low. But if a teacher has network not just within the school, outside of the school, then the level of creativity and innovation is so much more higher, because knowledge is not just produced and kept within the school, it's shared and received outside of the school.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adam. I am very happy today because I get more education today from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that would be the end of the Q&A. So if you don't mind, Dr. Doni, I would like to summarize your presentation.
Sure.
So Dr. Doni has presented on building innovative and sustainable education management in Society 5.0, and he emphasized on the need of to adapt education to the new normal, especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also emphasizes the importance of reimagining education to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Some key points are mentioned, including rapid adaptations of organizations to remote learning, and also increased collaboration among teachers, and the focus on innovative solution for students with various needs. Dr. Adam also argues that traditional education practices such as rows of desks and mass lectures must be unlearned. He stressed the need for new form of leadership and teaching practices that are network-based and technology-driven. Other than that, he also highlights the importance of creating conducive school climates, empowering teachers to lead, and engaging with community to improve educations. And I would like to also share it in Indonesian. Dr. Adam tadi mempresentasikan tentang building innovative and sustainable education management in Society 5.0. Beliau menekankan pentingnya menyesuaikan pendidikan dengan new normal atau normal yang baru, terutama setelah pandemi COVID-19. Beliau juga mengungkapkan bahwa perlu adanya reformasi, perubahan dalam menjalankan atau menghidupkan kembali pendidikan untuk menghadapi tantangan yang ada di era sekarang ini. Beberapa poin yang penting yang beliau sampaikan, salah satunya adalah adaptasi dari banyak organisasi sekarang yang pakai pembelajaran jarak jauh online, kemudian juga meningkatkan kolaborasi antar guru, dan fokus pada solusi-solusi yang inovatif memenuhi kebutuhan siswa yang tentunya dengan beragam latar belakang. Dr. Doni juga menyebutkan bahwa ya praktik pendidikan tradisional yang selama ini kita lakukan sebaiknya diperbaiki. Dia juga menyoroti pentingnya menciptakan leadership atau bentuk kepemimpinan yang baru supaya bisa ikut dengan situasi yang baru, praktik pengajaran yang baru yang berbasis jaringan sehingga bisa berkolaborasi yang kemudian juga didorong oleh teknologi yang sudah ada. With that, I think I conclude this last presenters, and I think I'll give it to the MC. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Yasir, for moderating our discussions with Mr. Bambang Sumitono, PhD, and Dr. Doni Adams. We also extend our sincere gratitude to Mr. Bambang Sumitono, PhD, and Dr. Doni Adams for their insightful presentations, which have provided us with valuable perspectives on today's theme. Throughout this seminar, we have had the honor of learning from distinguished experts, Dr. Siti Nadia Binti Zainuddin, Professor Dr. Iim Wasliman, Mr. Bambang Sumitono, PhD, Dr. Doni Adams. Their expertise and knowledge have enriched our understanding of education management in the digital era in Society 5.0. With that, we have now reached the end of today's event. Before we conclude, we kindly remind all participants to complete the attendance form to be eligible for the certificate. Additionally, the presentation materials from today's speaker will be shared via Google Drive and made accessible through the WhatsApp group. So please stay connected to receive the materials. Furthermore, we would like to inform you that the certificates will be shared no later than March 27. The certificates will also be uploaded to Google Drive and distributed via the WhatsApp group. So please ensure that you have completed all the required attendance forms to receive them on time. Thank you once again to our esteemed speakers, moderators, the organizing committee, and all participants who have taken the time to attend and contribute to this international seminar on education management. We hope the seminar has been a valuable and insightful experience for everyone, and may the knowledge gained today inspire us in all our respective fields. Thank you, and see you in the next event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You are welcome.
Tuh.
Tidak foto-foto lagi, Mas.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mas Arif.
Hatur nuhun Ari sareng panitia sadayana.
Sami-sami.
Terima kasih banyak.
Nuhun.
Syukron wa
Apa kabar?
Nuhun,